welcome back to StarrSoap's channel. How are you today? I'm doing really good. That's right. In case you don't know me, my name's MissCrystalStarr. I'm the Queen Soapy here at StarrSoaps. That's right, all of the creations that you watch on this channel are all made by yours truly. Hi, nice to meet you. So, if you're not already and you'd like to be, please hit that subscribe button and become a member of the StarrSoaps family. I'm getting closer to 6,000 subscribers, and once I hit 6,000, I'm keen to do a giveaway. That's right. So please help me. I'm so close. We'll get to 6,000 and then I can give some of my gorgeous stuff away. I love giving stuff away. I have a real problem with just giving my stuff away. Is anybody else like that? Because honestly, I don't get any better feeling than the feeling I get when I'm being generous. It feels really good. I love to give. So if you're like that, you know, hit me up in the comment section down below and we'll have a little convo about it. So without further ado, I am going to be telling you what I'm making today. That's right, I'm going to be making a very special Starr soap today. This one is a tribute to the mountain that I live by, Mount Taranaki. That's right. And it's also known by some as Mount Egmont, and it is the mountain in the region of Taranaki that I live in. I live right in the heart of Taranaki, so that's right by the mountain. So from where I live, when I look at the mountain, I don't just see a single peak. We can see from Stratford, where I am, 2 peaks. So that's what this soap has, and it's taken me a little while to get it just right. So if you'd like to see my previous attempts, I'll leave links below to when I made my mountain night scene and my mountain, oh, beg your pardon me. So if you'd like to see my previous attempt, I will leave a link below to when I made my mountain night scene last year, and you'll be able to see how I've grown and how the soap project has grown. Now I have a little end slice here and I can't help myself, I have to show you. So let's go see how I made this, okay guys? Come with me, squee! Okay, so first things first, we're going to be adding our cooled lye water to our cooled oils. And the oils look so green because I'm using a high amount of pomace olive oil, and also because I added some menthol water which had a blue colour. So that's why I've given it all a really good mix first before I add the lye. Now I'm making enough to make a double batch here, but it's even more than I would normally make for a regular double batch because I'm using different moulds. These aren't actually made for the purpose of soap moulds. They were made for wine gift boxes, but I've repurposed them as soap moulds by lining them with freezer paper, and they give me the width that I need in order to create this mountain design. So I'm going to give this a good mix and bring it to a light trace, but make sure everything's thoroughly incorporated before I go ahead and start adding my fragrance. And I'm using Herbs by the Sea fragrance oil, and I'm also topping it up with a little bit of jasmine and a little bit of orange blossom. So there are a bunch of fragrances that all make me think of summer. They make me think of the outdoors, and they're fresh and lively and uplifting, which I think is perfect for the soap because I'm making a daytime scene here that makes you think of a really bright sunny day here in the Taranaki where you might go up the mountain. Woohoo! So the first fragrance I added was Herbs by the Sea, and now I'm adding in the orange blossom and the jasmine, and it gives it like a floral top note, but the herbs being sort of like that base note. I really like it. It's a really fresh smell. Now I'm coming in with my colorants, and I'm going to separate a little bit of soap out, and this is to make the very base of the mountain that is like the earth and the grass. So it's going to be green and brown for that very, very base part of the mountain before the snow comes. So the last bit of the mountain where the snow doesn't quite come right down to, like the ranges. And I'm using in this jug here a mocha mica to achieve a nice earthy brown. And in the other one I've got a deep sea green mica, and both of these micas are a little bit, like, I only put a little bit in there, so it's maybe like a quarter of a teaspoon of mica, and I'm finding as I mix them that it's not quite enough, so I go back through and I add about another quarter teaspoon of mica into each jug just to punch the colours up and make them a little bit livelier. I don't want them to look too washed out. I want it to look like lovely natural colours, but I want them to stand out as well. At the end of the day, this is like kind of painting. It's kind of like creating an art piece but with soap. So I want those colours to be just how I envisioned. So now that I've got that mica mixed through, I'm adding a bit more, and I'm going to have to mix it again. Lucky for me, the fragrances I chose are really well behaved and they're not thickening up, so that means I can fluff around and mix until I get just to the right colour. Not always the case though. Sometimes you'll hit certain fragrances, or the temperature in your soap room or whatever might cause things to thicken up, and you don't always have time for this. Lucky for me, I did. So I'm coming through with my mini mixer here to try and really mix every last little bit of mica into the soap, and I think I'm about happy with how that brown looks now. So I'm adding some titanium dioxide. The titanium dioxide is dispersed in water, where the other micas were actually dispersed in a little bit of olive oil. So I've added them all. I'm happy with that shade of white, so I'm moving that jug out of the way now, and it's time to bring in my moulds. So I'll just give the bench a nice wipe down in case of any drips, because we don't want to get that on the base of our mould. And now I'm going to go ahead and pour that green into the brown to create an in the pot or ITP swirl, and that will hopefully give a nice blend of the brown and green all throughout the base of the soap. So I'm making sure I scrapey, that's right, Ms. Katie of Royalty Soaps. Make sure we scrapey, get every last little bit of that soap out of the jug. And then it's time to put it into the moulds. Now this is only creating the very base layer of my image, so I'm not putting very much soap in, just enough to fill about an inch of the bottom of my mould, and I'm using my spatula to make sure it's spread right out to all of the edges, so we get the whole base of that soap with this little amount. So I'm using that spatula now to gently kind of push it into the corners and into the edges until I'm happy, and then I can scrape out every last little bit out of that jug into the mould and come through with my tool. Now I've just made this out of corrugated plastic, and I've just cut a zigzag pattern all along it to come through and create the very base of the mountain before the snow comes down. Now it's hard to explain, but you'll see it in the final design that when the snow lands and falls all over the mountain, it doesn't fall in a perfect symmetrical shape. Sometimes you have long bits of snow and shorter bits of snow, and that's what I'm trying to create here. So now I'm coming through with my white soap, which is the mountain, and I'm going to be very careful to put it just along the top of the soap. I don't want to squish down those lovely vertical lines that I've just scraped through. I'm adding a little bit more titanium dioxide, mainly to loosen up the soap, which had thickened a little bit on standing. And now I'm going to gently scoop it in with my spatula, like I say, so as not to put too much pressure down on those zigzag lines. We really want them to be in the final design so that it creates that look that happens on our beautiful mountain when the snow has fallen. And you notice that most of the mountain is white and covered in a blanket of snow, but right at the base there are these little peaks where the snow runs out and it's back to the earthy mountain itself underneath. So I'm just going to carry on here carefully spatulaing, not a word, and then I'm going to plop the last of it on, and I'm going to come back through again with this corrugated plastic tool that I've made. So all I've done is I've taken a real estate sign, the material that a real estate sign is made out of, which is corrugated plastic, quite thick plastic, and then I have measured it to the width of my mold and then cut out my designs in it. And then all I do once I've filled up the mold with the soap, I give it a little bit of a tap, but again, we don't want to tap too hard. We don't want to destroy that pattern underneath. And then I can come through and carve out the peak of the mountain with my corrugated plastic tool. Here it is now. So all that excess soap that gets scraped out, I'm just putting that back in my jug, and I'm just going to pop it into some individual cavity molds, and they'll make some little guest size soaps or some little bonus soaps. So they're just going to one side right now. And it's sort of like one of the things about making this type of design that can be a little bit frustrating is like all the soap that you scrape back into the jug. But like I say, you can just use it for another project. You can pipe it on top of something, or pop it into an individual cavity mold like I did, or pop it on top of another soap, whatever you like. So I'm going through over and over again until I get a nice clean peak, until I've really carved out that mountain, and then I have to come through and do it on the second one as well. This is a really popular soap around Christmas, I noticed last year when I made them. So I'm getting these ready for this Christmas. It's a really neat gift that is like, you know, a shout out to our local mountain and to everything that people love about being in Taranaki, is the fact that you can go up the mountain and you can go down to the beach all on the same day. So I think it's iconic and I really love making it. I'll have to keep making it. So I'm just showing you now how it looks once I've carved out the mountain shape, and then I'm going to go through and put all that extra soap into some cute little molds. Now I've got some bats here because Halloween is coming, and a spooky bat soap would be a cool gift on Halloween. But I also just have some nice plain squares, and I'll just pop some into there, and then I'm going to put some cute little butterfly toppers on them and a little bit of glitter, and they will look fabulous as well. And the last little bit of soap that's left after I've done those is going to go into a couple of stars. Those star soaps are really cool. They're fun to hold and fun to use because of their shape, and of course, you know, star soaps. So that's where all that extra soap went. Not a drop was wasted. And now we're back again to do the sky. So I'm using the same fragrances as before. I'm using orange blossom, jasmine, and herbs by the sea. And I'm just going to give that a nice mix to make sure all those scents are well incorporated before I go ahead and separate out a little bit of the soap batter into another jug, and that part of the soap I'm going to colour white with a bit of titanium dioxide that's been dispersed in water, and I'm going to make sure that's well mixed through by using the stick blender so it's really well mixed. And then I'm going to come through with some lovely blue oxide that's also been mixed in water, and it's going to be providing that lovely blue sky for our background. So I'm not 100% happy with that shade. I'm just pouring some of the soap back into the cup where I had mixed up the colourant and scraping out every last bit of the colourant, and then I'm going to give it another mix, and it still looks a little grey, so I'm going to add some azure blue mica as well. Now I'm happy with that. That's a nice sky blue. I don't want to go for anything too dark. It just has to be just the right shade to represent the lovely bluebird sky. So I'm going to go along first with the just plain blue soap and hopefully cover up the mountain because we don't want the white to interfere. Then I'll mix the white in with the blue like an in the pot swirl and put that on top, and that should represent the clouds in the sky. A little tap down and scrape the last of the soap out, and we're done. I'm going to give them a little bit of a swirl along the top, but they don't really need it. I just love doing this. It makes me feel like an artist. And this soap is a particularly arty soap. I'm really, really proud of myself. I feel like this soap It just represents Taranaki and it represents my home so well. Everything about it is just gorgeous, including the person who's making it. Squee! So I'm going to go ahead now and top it off with some stars for Starr soap and a little bit of rock salt that I've mixed in some black mica because it's a volcano. Mount Taranaki is a volcano. So this little bit of salt on top is to represent the volcanic rock and ash. That's also why we have black sand beaches here in Taranaki and in lots of places in New Zealand. And the good thing about black sand beaches is they're nice and warm, but that can also be bad. You can burn your feet, so you have to run across the sand down to the ocean. So it sits overnight and we're back again the next day, and the soap has saponified, and you can see how that almost greyish blue has turned into a lovely light sky blue, and I'm really happy with that. So I'm just going to unfold the wax paper and remove the soap, and then it's time to cut it into bars and see what we got. That looks awesome! Unfortunately, one of the bars that I cut, it separated. The mountain and the sky separated. And I quickly realized that cutting it with the knife was only going to cause more of the bars to separate. You can see it right here. See that? Oh, so sad. Uh-oh. It did only happen to the one bar, and as soon as it happened I stopped using the knife and I switched out to my wire cutter, which put less pressure on the soap and therefore made it less likely for it to separate apart. So living and learning. If you're doing a mica line, if you're doing something like that, make sure you cut the soap while it's in its softer state. Don't let it get really hard. Otherwise, when you put the pressure on to cut the bars, you just might separate the two sections, and you don't want that. I'm really happy with how these turned out. I've got that little extra peak on the mountain that you can see if you look at it from our side, from Stratford. It's got a little bit of earthy, browny green along the base of the mountain, and then the beautiful sky with the clouds in it. Oh, I'm so chuffed. I'm really happy. Definitely going to have to keep making the soap. I've already sold 10 bars out of the 22 that I ended up getting, and I'm probably going to sell the others at the very first market I go to this year, which is called Under the Mountain Market. So I think it'll be a popular soap there. Well, here we have all of the bars cut and sitting up in the curing rack where they will stay for 4 to 6 weeks. I really hope you enjoyed watching me make this soap as much as I enjoyed making it. And if you give this technique a try, please share pictures in our group over on Facebook called StarrSoapy Family. If you really did like this video and you think I'm a bit of a dag and you want to see more like it, please hit that subscribe button and don't forget to ring the notification bell so that you'll always know when I upload a groovy new video like this one. And guys, if we can get to 6,000 subscribers, I'm going to do a giveaway. That's right, so if you want to be in with a chance to win a bar of soap by StarrSoaps, a bath bomb, a lip balm and a herb infused body balm, then hit that subscribe button, share the channel with your friends and get them to subscribe too. We're so close to 6,000 and then we can do a giveaway. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.